There are movie stars, and then there is Humphrey Bogart. He wasn't classically handsome. He had a scar on his lip, a gravelly voice, and eyes that looked like they had seen too much of the world. But when he walked into a room or lit a cigarette, he owned the screen. He was the definition of cool before the word even existed. He taught men how to be tough, and he taught women that a rough exterior could hide a gentle soul. But the tragedy of Humphrey Bogart is that the very thing that made him iconic, the smoke, the drink, the hard living, was the thing that took him away from us. On January 14, 1957, the King of Hollywood died in his sleep. He was only 57 years old. Today, we look back through the smoke and mirrors to find the real man, the man they called Bogie. Humphrey DeForest Bogart wasn't born on the streets. He was born into wealth in New York City in 1899, but he never fit in with high society. He was a rebel. He drifted into acting, but for years he was just the bad guy, the gangster who dies in the last reel. Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. He wasn't a pretty boy like Cary Grant, but Bogart had something else. He had authenticity. It wasn't until his 40s, an age when most careers are slowing down, that he finally exploded. When he put on that detective coat in the Maltese Falcon, the world finally understood. A hero doesn't have to be perfect, he just has to be real. And then came 1942, Casablanca. It was a movie that was supposed to be a standard war drama. Instead, it became the greatest romance in cinema history. Bogart played Rick Blaine, a man broken by love who chooses duty over happiness. When he looked at Ingrid Bergman and said, "Here's looking at you, kid," he wasn't just reading a line, he was cementing his place in eternity. That performance made him the most loved man in America. He represented the cynical American who, when push comes to shove, will always do the right thing. But the real love story of his life wasn't in a script. In 1944, on the set of To Have and Have Not, a 44-year-old Bogart met a 19-year-old model named Lauren Bacall. The age gap was scandalous, but the chemistry, it was nuclear. Bacall, whom he affectionately called Baby, was the only woman who could tame him. She matched his wit, she matched his toughness, and she gave him the domestic peace he had never known. They married, had children, and became Hollywood's golden couple. For the first time in his life, the lonely tough guy was truly happy. He famously said, "She's my wife and my nurse and my mother and my sister, and she is my girl." But happiness in Hollywood is often fleeting. Bogart was a heavy smoker and drinker his entire life. It was part of his brand. A cigarette was always dangling from his lips. By the mid-1950s, his health began to fail. He had a persistent cough. He was losing weight, but being the tough guy, he refused to see a doctor. When he finally did, the diagnosis was devastating: esophageal cancer. He underwent a massive surgery lasting 9 hours, but it was too late. The disease had spread. The man who had faced down Nazis and gangsters on screen was now fighting a battle he couldn't win. His final months were a mix of pain and love. He was too weak to walk up the stairs, so he had a dumbwaiter converted into an elevator just to move around his home. Yet he kept his dignity. He would dress up in a smoking jacket, sit in his favorite chair, and host his friends, Frank Sinatra, Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy. They came to say goodbye, sipping drinks and pretending everything was fine. Tracy later said, "Bogie was so weak he couldn't walk, but his spirit was as strong as ever." On the night of January 13, 1957, Lauren Bacall visited him in the bedroom. He looked at her and said his final words, "Goodbye, kid. Hurry back." He fell into a coma and passed away the next morning. When Humphrey Bogart died, a piece of old Hollywood died with him. John Huston, his best friend and director, gave the eulogy. "He is quite irreplaceable.
There will never be another like him. And he was right. Decades have passed, trends have changed, but Bogart remains. We miss him because he was a man of his word. In a world of fakes, he was the genuine article. Rest in peace, Bogie. Here's looking at you, wherever you are.